Today, we are going to be talking about a hot topic: tariffs, transparency, and trust marketing during uncertain times.
Welcome to the Higher Purpose Marketing Strategy Podcast. If you're frustrated by marketing and want to stand out from your competition, this is the show for you. Every week, we're discussing how to build a plan that attracts your best customers and aligns with your values. I'm your host, Ashley Conway, follower of Jesus, CEO of Be Weird Marketing, marketing coach, and copywriter. I promise to defeat the ick, yuck, and struggle bus feelings you may have about marketing with a few good stories and proven advice. So let's have fun and get to work.
All right, let's jump into our topic for today, which, like I said, is tariffs, transparency, and trust marketing during uncertain times. So let me just tell you right from the get-go, this is not going to be a political discussion. I'm not going to be taking sides. We're not going to be discussing whether we think tariffs are right or wrong, whether we think that they will be effective or not. We're not going to discuss any of that, nor are we going to try to fight what is coming. What we are going to do is to be really wise, to deal with facts, and to talk about how do we respond when uncertain things happen. So, tariffs are not the only thing that falls into uncertainty that a business will have to face. Let's think about recessions. We've definitely had those in past years. Natural disasters. If you have one both in the town where you operate or your suppliers, anything like that, that can drastically face your ability to get your service or product out the door. Compliance changes. If you're in an industry like law or like finance, compliance makes a big deal in your marketing, and those changes can really dramatically affect what you can do. And also a pandemic. Does anyone else kind of feel throwback to COVID now I'm reading that there are people who are going into Costco and buying up a bunch of stuff in case the prices increase. Well, it's kind of giving me COVID vibes where it's like there may be price increases, or things be not available. So we're going to go kind of stock up on those things. And it's also a lot of uncertainty, especially for business owners. How is this going to affect our business? How is this going to really look when it happens? So what we're going to talk about today is where we're at as of today with U.S. tariffs and why it matters for more than just if you're a company who heavily relies on supply chains. Because this is the whole purpose of this time together. We want your business to be able to lead during uncertain times, not just react. Especially, when your customers are watching how you respond. But we want to position you as a business that is transparent and is trustworthy and is out there at the beginning, communicating and, creating a sense of peace in your market. So let's jump into this conversation. The current status of U.S. tariffs. Obviously, this recording is April the 17th. So this is where we're at today. On April the 2nd, President Trump, this is totally, by the way, let me caveat this. This is from a White House press release. From what I could gather, this is neutral. It is not partisan one way or the other, left, right. This is just a factual statement of what has occurred. So on April the 2nd, this was, Liberation Day. It was what it was termed. President Trump imposed a 10% tariff on all countries and individualized reciprocal higher tariffs on nations with which the U.S. has the largest trade deficits. So more than 75 countries after he proposed the 10% tariff, already reached out to the White House to discuss new trade deals. So he paused these individual higher tariffs for these 75 countries, except for the country of China, who retaliated with their own tariffs. So President Trump increased the tariffs on China. They face up to a 245% tariff on imports to the U.S. as a result of them increasing our tariffs. So that is just the simple facts, what's going on now. And here is, from the research that I did, the general public's reaction, the sentiment that your customers and the general public are feeling about this situation. They are frustrated by higher prices. Tariffs often result in higher prices on everyday goods. You can go out there and Google which grocery products are probably going to be more expensive, which, lumber, things like that. So they're frustrated by that naturally. And some of them are unaware of the connection. So there are many consumers who don't understand this whole tariff game. They don't know that it will automatically kind of lead to rising costs, at least in the short term. So instead, they will blame those higher prices on inflation, which is still a thing, or retailer markup, like the retailers are taking advantage of the circumstances in order to mark up their items. They're also, this is a big one, I think, fatigued by economic stress. So we've had COVID disruptions, we've had COVID price increases on things, we've had inflation, we've had interest rates hikes that makes it very hard to buy a home. So many consumers, and I should have bolded this, are just tired of bad news and more hesitant. I won't say straight up hesitant, but more hesitant to spend, especially when they don't know exactly what's coming. There's also calls for transparency. So this is a huge opportunity. Alert, alert. Consumers want businesses to be upfront about how tariffs may impact pricing or availability, them being able to get the service, the product they want. There's also interest in this made in the USA. So there's a growing appreciation for goods and services that are produced solely here in the US. But on the flip side of that, customers may also not understand or are just not thinking it through that a lot of times a product that is made, product or service solely here in the US is going to be more expensive. So something just, easy example, top of mind would be if you get a garment, a dress that is made here in the US completely, every source, every product along the way in the supply chain is US made. That is going to be more expensive than something that is made in China. If you're getting something from Temu or Shein, it's going to be a lot less expensive. Quality is probably not going to be equal. You're going to get higher quality from something made here. But if you're just judging on price, then an imported item would be less expensive. So let's keep this in mind, especially as we go through this, kind of middle bullet point of customers are hesitant to spend and they're tired of bad news. So now let's move forward. So, we're primarily, when we think about tariffs, we think about the economic repercussions, but let's keep in mind that tariffs, this whole situation it should change your messaging. It could change your pricing, and it definitely can affect the trust that you are building in the market with your potential customers and your current customers. So let's go into how that works. So let's talk about marketing when tariffs don't affect you. So it may be that everything you do is made in the US. It may be that you have an online service, so it's really not affected by tariffs. So if you aren't affected by tariffs at all, say so. Take that opportunity to say, and I'll get into this like some phrases, but to say so clearly that the tariffs will not impact you. So and I've had this conversation with a couple of clients now, emphasize if you're made in the USA, be putting that on some of in your copy, your social posts, made locally, or if it's a digital delivery. And I know if you're somebody who's like an online coach or you do something completely online, it may seem obvious, and it is, that what you're doing is not going to be affected by tariffs. But I think at the very least, you can do a couple of social posts that are kind of cheeky, that are like, something, when you operate online, you don't have to worry about tariffs or something like that. Like, you won't have to worry about price increases on what we do. And we'll get into some other things that you could talk about. But I think it's still worth, even if you don't want to, like I talked about in bullet number 1, create a campaign, and we'll come to that in a minute. Even if you don't want to create a whole campaign around this, it might be worth just like a cheeky mention of, that you're obviously not affected by the tariffs. That first bullet on creating a campaign, that is very applicable to any service business that is more brick and mortar, that it does appear that, the tariffs could have an impact on you. So create a whole campaign. And by that, I mean, create social ads that go to a landing page talking about, how your position on the tariffs. Send out some emails, this type of thing. You can do more than one thing. You could also do a lead magnet on tariffs if it's something that your audience is really concerned about. So you're going to state in all of those how your services are going to remain stable during, when the tariffs roll out. I know we're on a pause right now, but we know President Trump campaigned on tariffs, and he is one that is very action oriented. So I don't think he's just going to let it lie, let them just fizzle out. I think this is going to come back when that pause is lifted, and we need to be using this 90-day pause to get ready. So create a campaign, addressing tariffs, you're emphasizing made in the USA. And as far as copy points, you can include things like tariff proof, no price hikes, USA proud, things like that are kind of more punchy statements. They would be great for social media, even if you just have that in a little corner and then you're talking about something else. Just putting that out on what you have going will be really reassuring to your audience. How about marketing when tariffs do affect you? So if you are affected by tariffs, top of the line, be transparent and proactive. You being honest and forthcoming about this is going to build trust, and it's really going to position you as a leader in your, with your audience in your market. So, and that's even when the news isn't great. It's even more important then to be honest and to be forthcoming. And these are some practical tips of things that you can do. And number 1 is act now. We're already a little behind the boat. Trump has been talking about tariffs for a long time. The Liberation Day thing was on April the 2nd. So act as soon as possible. You're going to acknowledge pricing may change, and this is why. And people want to know that you're not doing what they assume, which is just a retailer markup, that these are the components of our product or service that will be taxed. There will be a tariff on these. So explain why, like what your process is, where your supply chain, where that's coming from, and how you'll communicate to them as things evolve, right? Like as these tariffs are unpaused and we see how much the countries that we're working with are going to be, the tariff's going to be levied on them, then we will communicate to you like what our next steps are. Because again, transparency builds trust. Number 2 would be use values-centered language. Because this, again, is like when you use values-driven language, you are communicating who you are as a business to your audience. So we're committed to transparency. And I trust that you all are if you're seeing this or listening to this. And you'll never have to be surprised by a hidden increase. Hello, how fantastic is that? We're going to be transparent. We're going to tell you before we make any changes. We're going to explain why those changes are happening, and we're going to give you options if you need it. And 3 is to share the steps that you're taking. Are you looking into sourcing, different raw goods that go into your service? You're going to keep communication open? You have assigned somebody on your team to keep track of this, to see what the impact is going to be. Like, show them that you're taking steps and that you are concerned for them. Okay, but this is what not to do across the board. Don't ghost your audience. So, I'm sure just like me, you are having conversations with people about tariffs. I'm having them with clients. I'm having them with colleagues. I'm having them with my mom. This is just something we're talking about as we're thinking about buying things. In fact, my husband and I went to IKEA a couple of weeks ago and got some bookcases because we're like, we want to beat the tariffs, of course. So don't ghost your audience. They're already thinking about this. And if you say nothing, they're probably going to assume that you are going to be affected, and I don't know if they would be less likely to buy from you, but it's definitely going to be a question they have in the sales process if they're even willing to start to enter your sales funnel, because they may be like, I just don't know about money, about my finances, what's going to happen, how is this going to affect it? I'm going to put off whatever this is. I'm going to kick that ball down the road and wait and see how this plays out. Well, if you're really transparent, you may be able to reassure them and they'll say, okay, I feel okay about this. Let me at least get some information. Number 2, don't get political. That's a huge no-no. Don't blame others or don't panic post. And I hope that these are obvious and these are things that you're not doing. Your business, your brand needs to be neutral. It is not Democrat. It is not Republican. It doesn't blame anyone. It doesn't blame the old administration. It doesn't blame the current administration, whatever it is. Don't panic post. And some of this kind of leans into the urgency thing that is kind of in the gray area of being unethical, but you better get in while we have supplies now, or it's going to be 3 times the cost kind of thing. We don't want to strike fear. All of this kills your credibility. It hurts your brand reputation. And then 3, don't pretend that you're immune to tariffs if you're not, because it's going to backfire when you inevitably have to raise prices and you will tell them, oh, it's not us, it was the tariffs. So it's going to backfire. Don't pretend like it's not going to impact you if it's going to. Now, what should you do? And this, I took kind of a step back. These are not just marketing strategies. There are other things. I mean, you think about during COVID, during the recession, during different things, that just ways you can innovate and try to put a positive spin, knowing that people are hesitant to spend, knowing that we aren't sure what will happen with the tariffs. How can we respond so our businesses aren't harmed by this? So this is just specific to strategy. So I think this is a good time to promote not only your low cost offers or your entry level services. So you're still going to promote your high ticket items, whatever your main service is. But I think it's also smart, because people are hesitant to spend, to promote things that cost less, where they can still get a benefit, but they don't have to spend 4, 5, 6 figures to get something from you. That may be a little too much for some people right now. Another idea is to create bundles. You bundle a couple of products and services together. It conveys more value, that people are going to get more by doing a couple of things with you, and you give them a small price break by getting more than one product or service at a time. You could offer tiered pricing or packages. The example of that would be to say, this is our classic package. This is our middle package. This is, what I'm saying? It's like good, better, best is kind of the term. So you're giving them options that the high ticket, which would be your premium, is not the only way to do business with you. You can take that high ticket and pull some stuff out of it and create a couple of lower cost packages that give people options. And I will give you the tip that most people will pick the middle package. So make sure that you're good with that. If you present them 3 options, they're going to kind of gravitate to the middle. Another idea would be flexible payment plans. And that may be something you are already doing. You already offer payment plans. This would be a time to consider extending those. So if you're offering 2 payments, maybe you offer 3 or 4. If someone really wants to do business with you, don't let the payments get in the way. You can always put them on a payment plan of, say, let's 5 payments maybe, and just don't start the work until the 2nd month or something like that, so that you're still getting paid for the work you do before you do it, which is smart business practice, but that they can stretch that cost out over a longer period. In your messaging, something that you're going to do is highlight the long-term value of what you do. So you want them to know, in most cases, this is the fact, that it's not just one and done and we're out, and then you've immediately you've gotten all the benefit you can just in that one time. You want to emphasize what you have that stretches on. Like, this is going to last you a very long time. You're going to be able to take this strategy we build and adapt it over a long period of time. You want to show that you do have they're getting a long-term ROI out of working with you. And maybe that's, that's a little bit harder if it is something like you have a lawn care business and you're going in and going out. But I think you can still talk about, like, you'll have a better lawn by using professionals versus a DIY solution. And we have specialized products that we use for your particular lawn. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're showing that there's going to be a long-term benefit. And this one's kind of a little out of the box. Check in with your existing clients. And we're doing this for twofold. Obviously, and I'm talking about clients that you have kind of on a regular basis. Check in with them, see how they're feeling. And the reason I say this is twofold, so you can use the responses that they give you to kind of refine the messaging that you want to put out, all of your marketing, social, email, all of that. So you can use the research that you find from talking to them to do a better job at your messaging. Number two, most people will do this. They're not going to contact you and say, the tariffs are coming. I'm kind of, I'm a little afraid. I'm cutting what expenses I don't have to make. They're not going to do that. They're not going to contact you during their decision-making process. They will only contact you after they've made up their mind that I'm going to cut out this regular expense just to be on the safe side and to be financially wise. If you check in with them now, then you have the opportunity. If you're like, how do you feel? I know things, this tariff situation is going on. We have kind of an uncertain economic climate right now. I just want to make sure that you're doing good. You like our service, what we're providing you. Then they have the opportunity, if they're not feeling like, yes, we're all good, to say, actually, I've kind of been considering cutting some things out, including this service that you do for me. You have the opportunity to work with them. If they're determined that they don't want to continue to spend what they are, can you downgrade them somehow to a lower level of service, but still keep them so that when this settles down a little bit, and it will, then you could go back and sell them on, things have settled out. Everything's looking good again. The economy is more stable. How about we upgrade you back to the services that you were getting? And remember what that is. Remember what the difference was of what you were getting when you were a premium person. So I think it's just a good opportunity that most people probably ignore, to check in with your clients and find out, can you still serve them, and can you catch them before they completely cancel? Okay. So this is something that's kind of excellent to plan out during a 60-minute power hour coaching session. And I do those, and we come in with whatever your challenge is. So let's say it is, my business is probably going to be affected by the tariffs. What do we need to do? And we map out, you send this, this, this. You send these 3 pieces. This is what they should say. We're going to map all of that out. We're going to map a strategy for contacting your existing clients, right? And this is the script that we're going to follow when we contact them. This is a downgrade option to still keep them if they're thinking of canceling. This is something we can easily map out in 1 hour. So it's about middle of the month. I have 2 more of those sessions left this month. And it doesn't have to be just tariff related. There are lots of things we can work through in your messaging, your sales funnel. And if you want examples about that, go to bit.ly/power hour coaching. You'll see tons of examples there of things we could do, as well as a link to book one of those sessions. It was such a pleasure to discuss this week. I trust that it was helpful to you, that it maybe gave you some ideas of some things that you could do even now when we don't completely know what's going to happen with this tariff situation. And as always, if you have questions, if you just want to bounce some ideas off me, I am happy to do that. Feel free to send me a DM on LinkedIn or on Instagram, and those links will be below. It has been a wonderful time chatting with you, and I hope you have a fantastic week.
Thanks for listening to today's show. For all things podcast, including transcripts, extra resources, and a place to submit questions for the show, visit higherpurposemarketingstrategy.com. I'd also love for you to do me 2 quick favors. 1, leave a review on Apple Podcasts, and 2, share this episode with your colleagues. And that's a wrap. Meet you back here next week.